Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode on the True Wellness RX podcast. I'm your host, Hanna Schultz. I'm a nutritional therapist in training, personal trainer, health coach, CrossFit coach, and founder of True Wellness Collective. So doing all the things, and obviously you can tell I'm a little bit passionate about all things wellness, and clearly I can't decide on doing one thing. And that is just how my life is going right now. I'm trying to juggle all the things right now, especially while being in school for nutritional therapy. I'm just kind of, I'm feeling the effects of doing too much right now. And I think you guys, if you follow me along on social media, I have not been as active on there because I'm just going through a whole phase right now of figuring things out. And there is times in life where that's completely okay. And I think sometimes you need that time to kind of dig deep and take time for yourself and not be so distracted by the outside world and what everyone else is doing. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm going through a lot of different healing situations right now that I'm getting some answers about my health. So that's playing a role into everything. And I also have a secret project that I am doing that I can't wait to share with you guys. I've definitely been giving some little clues on Instagram, but I'm just so excited that I probably will tell you guys very soon. It's in the works. We're doing some test recipes, if that's any clue for you guys. And I'm just having some friends and family try it out, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. So that might be a whole nother little part to this intro soon. But other than that, I'm just, I'm loving life. Despite everything that's happening, I'm not looking at it as a way that it's things happening to me. I'm looking at it as how are things happening for me. And there's just so many amazing opportunities that I'm getting lately in my own personal life and also just work. And I think it's because I'm surrounded by such amazing, inspirational people. The people that I work with at my gym, at Code Cairo, my family, my boyfriend, they're just such amazing people. My friends are doing amazing things. They're traveling all over. They're doing so many cool things with their life. It's a good time to be alive. And this podcast, for example, just being able to have these conversations with people that I look up to and I think are very inspiring. And that's part of the reason why I want to share it with you guys. And that brings me right into today. So the guest that I'm sharing with you guys today is actually someone who helped start my own yoga journey. And, I'm a little yogi myself. However, I'm also a meathead. I love to lift. I love to do CrossFit. I'm in the military, but, there's a whole nother side to me that is yoga. And it's so much more than just the physical aspect. It's the spirituality and the mindset that goes into it too that really drew me in, especially when I was dealing with my anxiety. So I actually started going to these YouTube videos, and it was Yoga by Candace that I found. And I started doing these 20-minute videos, and you'll hear me talk about it in our interview today. But it was just really cool that that one little video kind of started it all for me. So today's guest, Yoga by Candace Moore, but most people know her on Instagram as Yoga by Candace. She has her own podcast, Namaste, and her own branding is really Namaste, which is really cool. But she also just opened up her own studio in Connecticut, and she's just doing all the things. So I want to do a formal intro real quick. So Candace is an entrepreneur who believes nothing is impossible. She is the owner of Namaste Studios, the author of the best-selling book Namaste, and a full-time international yoga instructor, healthy living blogger, YouTube partner, founder of Mantra Box. She is passionate about living your absolute best life. You can connect with her on Instagram as well as her website, yogabycandace.com. So yeah, like I said, she is doing all the things, and she's just all over the place. Follow her on Instagram. I swear she's in a different country the next day. It's insane. So very inspirational to follow her and read her content. It's one of the few people that I like to keep up on Instagram and gain some inspiration in that realm. So I hope you enjoy this interview. I know I did talking to her, and I hope this inspires you to maybe even try yoga yourself. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to True Wellness RX, a lifestyle prescription inspiring you to nourish, move, and connect each and every day for optimal wellness. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the True Wellness RX podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Candace Moore, better known as Yoga by Candace. If you follow her on Instagram or on her blog or even her YouTube channel, Yoga by Candace is typically how she goes. Candace, do you want to say hello?
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah, and I just want to share real quick before we get into everything, but you were actually what started me on my yoga path. It was a couple years back, but I was trying to get into the whole yoga thing. I didn't really know what to do, so I just went on YouTube and I searched yoga, and you were and you were one of the first videos that came up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and your videos are just so like calming and to the point, and you know, I didn't have a very long attention span, so your 20-minute videos were like the sweet spot for me.
Do you know I hear that a lot? I know that I feel like people are like, oh, in order to have a good yoga practice, I have to do 60 minutes. Well, not everybody has 60 minutes in their day to dedicate. And I honestly feel even just 10 or 15 minutes can help turn your day around completely.
Yes, and I agree with that. And usually I feel like it's the people who need to do yoga should be squeezing in like those 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to jump right into, well, one, where are you living right now and kind of where you've been? And then also what started you on this path?
So I am living in Connecticut. Okay. And I just moved to kind of the southwestern part of the state because I just opened up my first yoga studio in Ridgefield, Connecticut is where it is. And I had been living previously for the previous 3 years in Hartford, Connecticut. And prior to that, I had bounced all around Europe and throughout the States on and off, kind of moving like 2 or 3 times a year because I was in a relationship where his job took us all over the place. So I was moving with him.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what was the other question? How did I get into it?
Yeah. So, because I know you're kind of a world traveler and whatnot. So where did, you know, while you were traveling and bouncing all about these different places, where did you find yoga and like what made you want to stay with it?
So I actually originally found yoga when I was 15. My mom is like the original cool girl, and she was into yoga and like health food before it was cool.
That's awesome.
And that's why I call her that. Yeah, like there was no health food store in our area, so she was just like, well, we'll start a co-op. And then she'd put in these big bulk orders and just recruited everybody around her. Anyway, she was the one who found Kripalu, which is this world-renowned yoga center that was about, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes from where I grew up. And she was really into it and would kind of drag me along when I was 15. And I say that because at 15, I don't know about anybody else, but I was just a complete brat. And my mom would drag me there, and I ended up really loving it. But of course, I never told her that because then she would know that I'm enjoying it. Yeah, so I ended up really enjoying it, and I kind of stayed with it on and off for years. My first job was at a gym, and they offered yoga there, so I did yoga there. And then my first real job out of college, I was a school teacher, and I was trying to look for a program, almost like a workout program that would also kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get me that athletic practice, but then also like do something for my mind because I was going crazy as a first-year teacher. and yoga was it. And then I realized, like, wow, this is so much more than just a sweaty workout. This is so much deeper than that. And then I got really sick with Lyme disease, and I wrote about that in my book, Namaste, which you can find on Amazon or at Barnes and Noble or most major bookstores anywhere. And it took me a very long time to get that diagnosis. And by the time I did, it was about 9 months into it. And I had complete like inability to even really walk, never mind
Wow.
like run or practice yoga or do anything physical. And there was a short time period where I was bedridden, and I fell into this really deep depression. And I was like, you know what? If I ever get better, I'm going to live intentionally, and I'm going to
Mm.
quit the job that I absolutely hate, and I'm going to do something that I really love. And I'd really like to go take that yoga teacher training. Like, I've always enjoyed teaching, and I feel like I could be good at it. And I've always loved yoga, so why not merge the two? And then once I did start to get better, I did go take that yoga teacher training, and now I have fulfilled that kind of goal to just live intentionally and do what I want to do, dream big, and just kind of go after it. And so now I run Yoga by Candace, and I run Namaste Studios, which is our first yoga studio that we've opened. And I do a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's what I love. And I feel like when you do what you love, you don't really, it's not quite the same as other work.
Yeah.
You know, like it's still work for sure, but it's not something that I dread.
Right, exactly. And there are a lot of things that you do that I definitely want to touch on in this, because it's very inspiring to see, because you can tell that you are just so in the flow with your work. All the things you offer, you can tell that you deeply believe in yoga and the benefits of it. And it's so cool to see how you've taken yoga and put it into so many different products and ways that people can use it. So, for example, like your app, I know that you offer all these different blogs on there, different videos now. It's amazing to see that your own journey, it helped heal you, and now you're taking this and healing others and being support for them. And they might not even realize it day to day, like what exactly is happening. But, like healing is happening just by taking 10 to 15 minutes, like you said, to do that work. And I do want to touch on really quick. So you mentioned Lyme disease,
Yeah.
Like no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I did read your book, and, this podcast is a lot about nutritional healing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
What did you exactly do for Lyme disease? What was your healing protocol?
Well, if we were to back up a little bit, I feel like one of the reasons I got Lyme as badly as I did is because my gut was in a really poor state of health.
Okay.
And I think that was attributed to 13 years of on and off vegan and vegetarian lifestyle. And I say that without anybody getting really upset yet. I was the
Mm-hmm.
world's worst vegan slash vegetarian,
The junk
meaning that
food.
yeah, I mean, honestly, everything was just, I was like such a sucker for marketing. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, these vegan meatballs,
yeah.
that sounds amazing. I would love to have some meatballs, but I can't wrap my head around eating meat. So I'll just eat these vegan meatballs, which, like, if I really turned the box over and looked at the ingredients, I would see that it is just completely processed, very little nutritional value, nothing, live, nothing really nutritious. And then I would eat like, spiralized zucchini noodles and then call that a meal when really
Right.
that's like 200 calories, no micronutrients. Like it's just kind of like it was like a socially acceptable eating disorder is how I would
Mm,
classify it. And I remember right around, man, I don't know, I had really poor digestion. I was waking up bloated. I was under eating, not really intentionally, but just because I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to nourish myself. I was just like, oh, I know. I'll just remove all of the dairy and the meat from my diet. And what was left was like garbage.
yeah.
And I just like, I didn't really put two and two together that, food is, as they say, let food be thy medicine. And
Yeah.
it just, instead, it was like putting diesel fuel in a car that did not take diesel. And my body broke down. And
Mm,
so, when I got Lyme disease, my doctor was really great. He was very aggressive in terms of antibiotics. So I did go on really hardcore antibiotics for over a year. And
Wow.
anybody who's taken even a course of antibiotics knows like it really destroys everything.
Yeah.
So, but in addition to that, he had me read the China study, and he
Okay.
had me get off, like, he was like, no sugar at all, or at least like reduce it as much as you can. I wish he had told me no simple carbs, because I think that would have,
Okay.
and kind of pointed me in the direction of more complex carbs.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have like kept reaching for the easy things to make, and those easy things to make, it's like once you do start to digest the pasta or the white potatoes, like it turns into sugar in your body, and then you're just kind of like perpetuating the situation. So anyway, I always say that the worst thing can be the best thing. And what I mean by that is I had poor gut health. Then I got Lyme disease. Then I was on antibiotics for over a year and a half, or about a year and a half. Then my body was really breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized, oh, I need to do some major gut healing. And I just kind of stumbled upon that, actually, because I was suffering from really bad acne. And the acne was like all across, it was cystic acne. It was all across like my forehead area.
Hmm.
And my mom, again, original cool girl, was into like all the cool stuff before it was a thing. She was like, "Oh, you should look at Chinese medicine." And I was just like, I rolled my eyes like, this is stupid. And then I don't know, I think it was Pinterest or something.
Of course.
Yeah, I found this thing on face mapping. And if for anybody who isn't aware, Chinese face mapping is so cool. It's basically just a picture of a face, and it shows you what part of the face corresponds to what part of the body. And I'm just, for years I was like, okay, mom, that sounds really hoaxy and kind of like, I don't know about that. But it was saying that the breakouts across the forehead are related to gut health and digestion. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, well, given the fact that I wake up looking and feeling 9 months pregnant, and I know I have bad digestion. I was like,
Yeah.
there must be something to this. So I was like, okay, Googled how to heal your gut. And then I just went down this like
Oh man.
rabbit hole. And man, it was great. It was in hindsight, I'm so glad it happened to me, because I feel now healthier than I ever was prior to starting this whole journey. And I ended up doing the GAPS diet for 2 years, and completely worked, completely, like, my acne went away, my digestion is perfect, like I've reincorporated things, and now I'm super mindful of what I eat. Like I try not to choose super processed food anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But my gut is in a place now where if I'm really stuck, like say I'm traveling and this is the only option, I can eat it and not have an issue. So I'm just really thankful for my journey and all that I've learned.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that you've learned so much from it, and also that you're in such a better place than before. I think, people who haven't gotten, those chronic illness or any kind of extreme thing that happened to them, they think how they're feeling right now is good.
Right.
But if you were to, do a healing diet, or even just remove some of those inflammatory foods like the oils and the
Mhm.
sugar, they would feel so much better. So yeah, I would agree. It's definitely a blessing in disguise. Uh,
Absolutely.
well, and I think yoga and that way of eating goes so much better together compared to. What I like about you and what I really appreciate is that you're a yoga teacher and you do yoga, but you're not like that cookie cutter yoga teacher that a lot of people imagine. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, what I'm talking about, but it just, you're not afraid to go outside the box and find what works for you and share that with people. And I think you did that in your book. And I think that started a whole wave of, gut
Thank
health.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just I don't know, I think there's a lot of like preconceived notions of what a yoga instructor should be all about.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember I went to one yoga workshop. This is like, excuse me, this was years ago before I became a yoga teacher. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to take my nail polish off. I probably shouldn't wear makeup. Like, I definitely need to be sure that whatever brand I'm wearing is like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I was like so putting so much pressure on myself to be a certain way to fit this mold so that I would be accepted into this like yoga world that I had
Mm-hmm.
this preconceived notion about. And at the end, I ended up going to the workshop, and I noticed the teacher there had toenail polish on. So I was like, oh, that was stupid. I could have just been myself. And if
Yeah.
that to me is what yoga is all about. Show up as you are, who you are, let however you are be enough, because life is just it's already challenging enough. Let's not
Right.
add another layer of pressure. So that's what it's all about for me. And I know that doesn't I know some people feel like yoga teachers should only drink water, don't drink wine, don't ever have sugar, don't eat meat, this, that, and the other thing. And I just feel like that's not the way I operate. I am accepting of everybody. And I think that's the message of yoga. So whether you want to come to my class in a full face of makeup, or you want to come to my class like hungover because you went out the night before, I don't care. Like, you do you. I'm just psyched that you even showed up.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Like yoga should be a community.
Yeah.
And so I want to get into then, okay, so you decided to be a yoga teacher. So when did you start, teaching? Like, where did you start teaching? And then also, where did you start making it kind of your own business?
So I graduated from my teacher training. I did one in Thailand, and actually,
Mm.
fun story. I now run my own teacher trainings, and the very first one I did it at the same venue in Chiang Mai,
Aw. Wow, that's
Thailand. So it's a
awesome.
very like full circle moment. Yes. So yeah, I did my teacher training in Thailand, and that was in 2012. And the day I graduated, I've always been a big blog reader for fashion and makeup and that sort of thing, but there was never one blog that was exactly what I was looking for. Like, I would go to this blog for fashion, this blog for makeup, this blog for fitness, but nothing that was like all three of them all together with like a
Yeah.
bunch of other healthy living stuff in it. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just start one of my own. I felt really empowered after graduating with my teacher training certification, and felt like I had the answers to a lot of the common questions, and a lot of questions I had before I took the training. And so I thought, let's just create a blog that I would want to read, with all those little elements. And that's what I did. But I didn't know, I knew people were making money off of blogs, but I just didn't really know how to go about that. And I wasn't really concerned with it to begin with. So on the day I graduated, I bought, without spending even 5 minutes on thinking of the name, I bought yogabycandace.com. And my tip to anybody out there who's going to start their own business, don't name it after yourself, because then you have to be the face of the brand,
Okay.
which sounds really fun. But like, if one day you want to sell your business, then
That makes sense.
Candace needs to be front and center for Yoga by Candace. So yeah. Anyway, that was the day I graduated, and I just
Wow.
blogged every day, and I considered it a job, even though I wasn't making any money off of it. I was just like happy to do it for the sheer joy of creating. I've always been really creative, and I've always had that teacher vein in me. So I came at it from like a teacher perspective, but also knowing, as someone who uses and reads blogs, like, how do I want it designed? What kind of content do I want to see? And when do I want it posted? And that sort of thing. And then I was about a year into it when I was just poking around in the back end, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's this monetization button? And then I clicked that, and it's been monetized ever since.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, was it mostly from like ads or?
That was on YouTube, actually, that I
Oh,
had been
okay.
creating for a year, not
Oh my
realizing that
gosh.
I could have earned money off those ads. Oh well.
So, did you start the YouTube videos before you started teaching people in person?
Yes, because
Okay.
at the time I was living in Germany, and I
Wow.
didn't have a work visa, so I couldn't teach. And I also felt really nervous. Like, I went to a pretty solid teacher training. My lead teacher is a direct student of Patabi Joyce, so he's like big deal, knows a lot of stuff. He's really awesome. And the training was solid. However, I feel that my education initially, I felt very prepared, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt very nervous to teach in front of a group. I didn't have a whole lot of group experience teaching. So what I did was, I think I graduated in March. By that summer, I was home in the States, and I just went to meetup.com and offered classes on the beach. Like,
Oh.
I was living in Florida at the time. So every Saturday and Sunday morning from this time to this time, I was just like, show up. And then eventually I was like, okay, it's donation based, because I felt like that was a good time to just give myself opportunities to practice without any expectation. Like if nobody's paying anything, they really shouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
any expectation.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people were like, wait, this is free? And I was like, well, if you would like to donate. And then I started making a little money that way. And then by the end of that summer, I felt really confident. And when I went back to Germany, I was able to get a work visa and I started working at all these different fitness centers and yoga studios and things like that.
Wow, super cool. So that's when you started making it more so your own business. So you never really worked at a studio, if I'm
I,
correct.
w- I did in Germany. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. So they hired you on. Okay, got it.
Mhm.
And then when did you start doing like your own workshops and what was your first workshop?
Oh gosh, I don't remember my first workshop, but it
Okay.
was at the very end of that year teaching in Germany. I think it was, maybe it was the following year, but very soon after, it was probably like 8 months to 12 months after I started teaching at studios and gyms that I got a pretty large following in Germany because at the time, and it's kind of still this way. I mean, maybe not in like Frankfurt or Munich, but in many places in Europe, it is not yoga is not like it is in the major cities in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean you can go to New York and find any kind of yoga on the face of the planet, and it will be like one block from each other.
Right.
So it's there's so many opportunities and so many different styles, and it's really a cool, beautiful thing to see emerge in the States. But in Europe, it's just not like that, or at least it wasn't back then. It was very slow, hatha style, like one little candle in the center of the circle, very, very quiet, silent, completely silent. So it was
Wow.
not vinyasa flow. It was not with like cool ambient music in the background. It was very serious and very almost intimidatingly so because it was, you had to be so quiet, so
Yeah.
traditional, and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. So there I come, this, American girl who barely speaks German. I'm trying to teach to them
Oh
in German. I
gosh.
just think that's really respectful. And I had my tunes and I got my flow and people were sweating and they really loved it. And so when I was about to leave to go back to the States, they were like, "Hey, before you go, let's do a trip together." And so our first retreat was in
Oh.
Ibiza.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Mhm.
you partnered someone with someone somewhat to do your first retreat then.
I had a woman that I met. She was kind of like my yoga agent for a while in Europe, and basically her job was to look for really great venues that would work for retreats
Oh.
and just kind of scout them, make sure they're solid, and then I would, come and bring the people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so once you're doing the retreats and workshops, when did you know that? I mean, did you ever feel like, I don't know, is this for me or am I doing this right? Like, did you ever have any sense of doubt during the beginning?
No,
That's
I
awesome.
I don't I feel like I'm such a weird person. Like I just don't really, I mean, do I have self-doubt all the time on a daily basis? But it's on dumb things like, does this shirt look good on me? Like I really love fashion, but I still feel like an idiot. I still feel like I don't know how to dress myself. And because I'm sure I'm a little curvy, like, I don't know, it's hard. Like that kind of like day-to-day stuff, I'm
Yeah.
doubting. But as far as my business, no, I really just feel like I have to follow my heart and I
Mm.
can't worry about what anybody else thinks. And I know that as long as I'm doing what feels good in my soul, that my intentions are in the right place, I don't really care what anybody else thinks because if they love it, then they're my tribe and this is like the vibe that they're on. And if somebody hates it, that's really more about them and their beliefs than it is about me and my beliefs.
Wow. That was really nice to hear. It's really refreshing because I think a lot of people can get stuck into that comparison trap and
Yeah.
think, if you're a yoga teacher, you have to do it this way, and by this time, you have to be doing this, etc. But I
Yeah, I
think,
don't subscribe to that at all. And I
yeah.
also feel like that's a full disclaimer, like I don't really follow, and the only person I follow on Instagram in terms of yoga teachers is Bad Yogi Official, Erin Motz.
Oh.
She and I are friendly. We met the last time I was in France, but I don't follow anybody else because I find myself getting
Oh.
distracted and
Yeah.
feeling like, And I will go down that rabbit hole
That's
of like,
smart.
oh my gosh, look how many people she has at her workshop, or look at how many spots they sold at this retreat. And what does that say about me? It says nothing. It says nothing
Mm.
about me. It says that maybe their following is more engaged or bigger or this or that. And it's like, I just don't want to, I only have so many hours in the day. I only have so much energy. And if I spend even 1 minute, comparing myself or comparing, my business, it's a complete waste of time and energy. So I just kind of stay in my lane and, yeah, and follow the people that make me feel good.
That's really smart. I need to do that because in the nutritional world, I definitely find myself like getting caught up in like what course should I offer and all that stuff. So definitely going to do that. I'm going to look at what I'm consuming in the day cuz I don't think people realize how much time we spend on these little apps. Like I set a timer on
Oh
my
yeah.
phone. Oh my gosh. Like
Oh yeah.
that a rude awakening.
Hmm.
So where do you gain your inspiration then? Or where do you get education for yoga?
Um, where do I gain my inspiration? What was the second part?
Or continuing education, like where do you learn how to advance in like certain poses? Because I know I go on Instagram
Oh,
and I look at that stuff.
yeah, I don't look at that stuff at all, ever, honestly, because I get so irritated seeing those like do this, not that. Some of those
Okay.
really kill me because the do this, like it's if it's a handstand, it's like the elbows are hyperextended and it's like it just like really, really grinds
Okay.
my gears. So I don't go to Instagram to look at things unless it's a teacher I really respect and it's a video and I can hear them talking. But
Mm.
I prefer to do my education in person. And so I actually just I
Oh,
completed my 500-hour teacher training, and I did that in Asheville, North Carolina, at the Asheville Yoga Center. And I
I
actually did a
love that
podcast about it.
place. Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
really great. It's a great little, I mean, talk about a business model. Whew, they
Yeah.
have got it down, like millions of dollars in revenue. I'm like in
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. But their teachers are incredible as well. And I want to make that point, like I think that in the yoga world and in the probably, I mean, I don't really know much about the nutrition world in terms of like what you, I don't know, in terms of like what the view is on making money, but I don't think that anybody should have a problem with making money. I think that we
Right.
all need to pay our bills, and I think a lot of people feel like yoga or massage, like those kind of things are about healing and about, health and being helpful. Yes, but unless you can pay your bills with good karma, like you need to earn some money. So don't ever
Yes.
shy away from, from charging. Charge what you're worth, and then add tax, as they say.
I like that. And that is very true. I think people tend to go for free advice when it comes to, I'm sure you get like questions all the time, like with yoga and whatnot, but sometimes I don't realize like this is my job. Like,
Yeah.
you're in an office, but I'm in a yoga studio. It's the same
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
And just like how do you set boundaries when it comes to work and life? Because I mean, it is your life. Do you ever
Yeah.
have time to check out?
Yeah, I recently, well, when it comes to like vacations, no, because I'm always like, oh, this would make really great content.
Right.
But I'm really good at, I've experienced some major burnout in the past. And so I have learned that even though I'm excited and I want to do this all day long, I know that if I do it for too long, for a couple days in a row, I'm gonna like lose my mind. So I try to really at nighttime before dinner, I put my phone down and it's down for the rest of the night. I really
Mm.
don't pick it up. I leave my phone outside my bedroom when I sleep. We have a rule in our house that we eat dinner with no phones and we just sit and converse,
Yeah.
because being on my phone, especially like in a business that is so online, being on my phone is part of the job, and I don't want to I mean, there has to be a point where I just like separate. So yeah, it's usually around dinner time. I put the phone down and I'm just done for the evening.
That's also, yeah, that's what I try to do too because I feel like your nighttime is your time. And
Yeah,
like, especially if you're trying to maintain good health, like at some point in your day, you have to implement some kind of like mental break and healing
yeah.
practice. But I also want to touch on, running a business and whatnot. How do you fit in, you know, your healthy meals? And I know you work out. I know you do some kind of strength training, which I definitely want to talk about. But
Mhm.
how do you fit that into your schedule?
I am lucky that I have a partner who is also on the same like healthy lifestyle wagon. So I actually really love making us breakfast, and so he and I get up at the same time, and he'll kind of do his thing around the house, and I'll make the coffee. And I usually do like a big scramble for breakfast. And then
Mm-hmm.
he's usually in charge of lunches. And then together we make dinner. So we just kind of
Oh,
make time for it and make it work. There was a while where I was on the meal prep train, but gosh, I feel like I need a week just to meal prep. It's like
yeah.
I feel like if I do that, then I lose the whole day.
Right.
So yeah, that's how I do that. And then as far as I think anybody who teaches yoga or like who works in yoga, just there comes a certain point where it's like, man, yoga is not the yoga it used to be for me. Yoga feels
Mm,
like a job. So I rarely will do I rarely will go to a yoga class just because I often don't have the time that it takes for a full class. So what I end up doing is I work out usually daily, if not, it's like 5 or 6 days a week, and then at the end of that workout, I will do my own self practice, and
okay.
sometimes that's 20 minutes, and sometimes it's an actual 60 minutes, but I use that time to really yeah, to do my self practice. And the thing with the I'm going to try to, especially because I just moved here, I'm going to try to hit up different yoga studios and see, what they're all about. I always think there's nothing beats like an in class experience,
Mm-hmm.
but with the lifestyle I have, it's just really hard to to kind of get there. And I'm also lucky enough to live so close to New York, so I'll often go to like master classes and that type of thing when a teacher that I'm really excited about is coming to town.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I've talked to a few other yoga teachers and they say the same thing. Like it's not the same anymore because you are, teaching it so often that spending a whole hour for
Exactly.
yourself, it's like
Mhm.
you're probably almost thinking about, "Oh, I should do this in the next class." And that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's really good that in some way you're still incorporating it into your life because at the end of the day that is what started it all was your own practice.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing for me is like I'm really in love right now with restorative yoga, and there aren't a lot of studios around the areas that I've lived recently that offer it.
Hmm.
I just think it's just not as like marketable maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not as fancy as like the flows and
Or the
it's not
hot
as
yoga.
exciting. Yeah, exactly. And so, but I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still loving, working on my handstand and playing around with funky transitions. I really love an athletic practice, but if I'm going to a vinyasa class around here, they don't offer like level 3, level 4, where I get to play around and try those types of things where where I'm physically at.
Mhm.
And then I also don't have that on the other side of it when it's, it's not as physical. Like I said, I really love the restorative practice, but they just don't really offer that around here. So I just kind of do it for myself, do whatever I'm feeling, and take those master classes when I can.
I like that. It's very intuitive.
Yeah.
And I think initially going to classes and jumping in some studios and doing your YouTube channel would help people initially, but I think it is really important to eventually be able to do some on your own. And
Definitely.
yeah, like tune in, like what do you really need today? Is it more of that advanced practice or is it really just slowing down? So I want to ask you, because you mentioned that you did the strength training and whatnot. Can you
hmm
touch on what exactly do you do, like format wise, and then what inspired you to get into that?
Sure. So I'm going to answer them in the different way you asked. So I got into it because I sustained a minor upper trap tear when I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was like jumping off monkey bars or something. Don't ask me why I was on monkey bars. But anyway, it was excruciating. I've never felt pain like that. And the chiropractor I went to was like, he was a sports medicine guy, and he's like, you really should start lifting heavy weights to build muscle around the joint, because this didn't happen because you jumped off weird from off the monkey bars. He's like, this happened because you're weak in your upper back,
Mm.
and you have like very it's like you have no muscle
To say
and
it.
on like the back and like the posterior side of my body. And it's interesting because when you think about the yoga practice in general, especially a vinyasa flow, it's very back body lengthening. So you think about
Mm.
a downward dog, you're stretching your glutes, you're stretching your hamstrings, and it's very front body strengthening. So you think about the chaturanga, you're strengthening your biceps, your chest, your shoulders. You think about the warriors, you're strengthening, the quads if you're not putting the weight in the wrong area of the foot. So there isn't a whole lot of strengthening of the glutes, the hamstrings, and the upper back in particular, especially when you think about in a vinyasa class, how many vinyasas are you actually doing? It's
Right.
like at least 10, 15, maybe even 20. Like there's so many. So I just felt like it doesn't matter what you're into, whether it's running, cycling, yoga, weightlifting, you need to have something else to complement it. And this was the wake-up call that I needed. And so then I started looking into lifting weights and what you should do for that. And I'm currently in a program to be a certified personal trainer because I just kind of nerd out on this stuff. And I found that not only has it helped me in my shoulder issue, but it is also, I had kind of hit a plateau in my yoga practice where physically I was just like, I can do the handstand, I can do the headstand, but like nothing else is coming. Why not? And I think it was a lack of strength. So just balancing out muscle imbalances, I think is super important. And, it's interesting because like I said, I just finished my 500-hour teacher training, and that was something I heard time and time and time again. Don't just do yoga. You've got to lift weights, or you've got to do something else to build that strength to offset to just kind of help the body be in balance.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I hope that, people listening to this take that into consideration because I do CrossFit. I'm a CrossFit coach, but I love showing our members, different stretches and mobility because it is really important to counteract, like even people who are lifting who are listening to this, you should still take into consideration maybe a yoga class and vice versa. Like,
not maybe, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because think about it. You think about something like an overhead squat, for example. It's like you've got to have that openness through the chest and through the arms and through the upper back as well. And you can get that through stretching with yoga. So I think the yoga practice will complement the strength, and the strength practice will complement the yoga. And actually we've kind of branched off with, we're kind of running with the Namaste brand here, and we've just created Namaste_strength on Instagram. And that's all about just showing you how you can incorporate yoga for strength building and how strength building can be incorporated into the yoga practice to help, even out the muscles and bring the body to that sense of balance.
I love that. That is so, so important. And it definitely sounds like this is something you're passionate about. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you do once you go through the certification completely. But I know you're already incorporating a lot of that into your business. And I've also, because I've looked into your teacher trainings, that's something I'm looking at. And I saw that you incorporate that into your teacher training. So can you touch on what makes your teacher training different, and what made you want to start doing it, and also how did you even know what to include into it?
Well, so Yoga Alliance has certain standards. They've actually just changed them now, but luckily nearly everything we had in our original teacher training is what's required. So we're pretty good there. But anyway, so that's how you know how many hours of, I don't know, yoga philosophy you need to include. So that was easy. It was more like, how can I make this one of the best in the country? And what might that look like? And how can that help people? And two things came to mind. The first is that so many people direct message me and they're like, I just spent thousands of dollars on a yoga teacher training and I don't know how to teach a class, or I'm too scared to teach a class. And to me, that's awful. I also spent thousands on a yoga teacher training certification, but I felt prepared to teach a class. I was just a little nervous. So I wanted from day one in our trainings, you're a teacher and you teach from day one. Do you teach a full class on day one? No, that doesn't make any sense. But you sit there and we pick a name out of a hat. And before we start any class, any lecture, we do a centering. And in that time of centering, it's maybe 1 minute or so. We pick a random name. That person is, let's say if you're called to do it, then you'll just walk us through a centering. And a centering is just something like sit tall, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, relax, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, just to get you comfortable speaking in front of a large group. So that's one thing that sets us apart is that you teach from day one. And then by the end of the training, will have at least taught, I want to say at least like 8 classes, 8 full classes.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, I think it's really important that you have confidence, you feel like you know what you're doing by the end of the training, because otherwise, like, you're just gonna, you need to get that money back, That's how
Right.
I feel. So you need to be able to hit the ground running when you graduate. The second thing that came to mind is so many people will direct message me on Instagram and say, I took a training, I know how to teach a great class, but I'm just not getting any traction in terms
Mm.
of like business opportunities. I don't know how to market myself. I don't know how to get my name out there. Studios don't want to hire me. I don't know what to do. And so I've created a business and marketing module in our teacher trainings that comes standard, so that you know how to write a pitch, how to ask for what you want, how to lead retreats, how to lead workshops, we even do now an audition class on how to give a great audition at a
Wow.
studio. This is important stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's like the master's program. Like, you go to college and you get this degree in, Spanish, but now you need to know how to be a teacher. So then you get your master's degree in teaching. Like, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
did, right? So I feel like this is, the master's program, but it's just included standard. But because so many people have direct messaged me, I've started offering that business and marketing module as a weekend long intensive. And our next one's taking place in Austin in this fall.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That
Mhm.
is, yeah, that's really smart. And I think a lot of people need that. And I know that's something that I've looked into as well on your website. It just,
Yeah, because it's not just for yoga teachers. Like, I've had
yeah.
naturopaths come, I've had life coaches come, Pilates people. So it's just like anybody who's kind of in business for themselves, who has something special and who wants to learn to take it to the next level, so that they can just, earn a little more and kind of dominate a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so important. And I'm glad that you're talking about this because a lot of people shy away from that topic. And like, that's a important foundation to your business. Like you need to
Absolutely.
know how to market yourself.
Hmm.
Okay. So we're getting close to when I have to let you go because I know you're busy, but I want to get into some rapid fire questions here. So
Okay.
feel free to make it as short as you want, as long,
Okay.
etc. So my first one, what advice would you give to someone who is looking to start yoga, just in
Hmm.
general?
Oh, just go to YouTube.
Okay, yeah, that's what I did, so it
Yeah.
works. And then, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to advance their poses?
Work on the strength aspect.
Okay, so would you say like using a wall, don't use a wall, or
Do not use a wall, or
okay,
turn around and face the other way.
so you're
Like,
in
if you're
better
working on
alignment?
handstand, don't kick up to the wall. Like, don't face it, put your hands down and kick up, turn away from it. So that when you're upside down, you're facing the wall that way. That's going to challenge you proprioceptively, and
Mm,
that's going to help you to find your sense of balance. That's going to help you to work with more control. And when we work with control, we are working with strength. When you kick up, you're never going to be, that's not sustainable for when you want to get away from the wall, because no matter how hard you try, you know that the wall is there to catch
mm-hmm.
you. So it's better to just like get rid of the wall completely, or turn and be away from it, so that you learn how to find your sense of balance once you're up there.
Ooh, okay, good tip there because I know I see a lot of people doing that.
Hmm.
Okay, so then my next one, what advice would you give to someone looking to start their own retreats?
Hmm. You've got to have somebody to sell to first and foremost. So if you have, as long as your following is engaged and you have, a solid, strong following, that's when it's time. When people start asking for it, that's when it's time to start planning a retreat. Don't plan a retreat if you don't have any online presence, or you don't have any in-person following, because then nobody will know about it.
Okay. And that's a big investment too, so that makes sense.
Well, and it's a big investment for you, as for you or the
Yeah.
whoever's leading it, because you've got to put up the money for it. So
Hmm.
I can't tell you like how many times I've lost thousands of dollars because I was just like, oh, I'll book this gorgeous villa, and then nobody shows up. So
uh,
you've got to make sure that you've got the following, so that you have people to bring there.
yeah. Okay, and then my last one, as far as it comes to advice, if it's an entrepreneur, just general advice, what would you give them?
Hmm. Surround yourself with people who are excited for you and who are happy for you and who challenge you to think critically about what you're doing. I think sometimes we have people around us who are very into the 9 to 5 life, and I have friends who that they work that kind of job and it works for them and they love it. But those same people also know that I am totally different. My hours are totally different. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
person who works 80 hours a week, so I don't have to work 40 for someone else. Like that's a line people say. And I think it's important to surround yourself with people who get it, people who understand you and your path and who want you to just be happy. I think there are some people who work that 9 to 5 life and they're committed to not understanding this path of the entrepreneur and committed to like always kind of poking the little bits of doubt into your life. And I think that can be really damaging to, to your happiness.
That's very true. It's important who you surround yourself with, and
Absolutely.
in all the aspects of life, really. Okay, so then my last questions are more so personal,
Okay.
tailored to you. So, what is your favorite yoga pose?
Hmm. Gosh, I guess like supported fish pose on a bolster where you
Oh,
just
that is
lay there and
different.
do nothing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like it. Restorative. There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so what did you have for breakfast? And I think you already mentioned a little bit about it.
Yeah. Today I had a scramble with what did it have in it? Tomatoes, sweet potato, basil, spinach,
Yeah.
broccoli, and cheese.
Nice. I like it. Well balanced too.
Mm.
So, of all the books that you've read, which one would you recommend to anyone?
I really like the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. It's a quick and easy read. It's really
Yes.
inspirational, whether you are an entrepreneur or not.
I like that one. Actually need to go back to that one. I think that's more of like a reference book for me. Like,
Yeah, definitely. It's a good
yeah.
reminder.
Yes. Okay, so my last two questions. What does true wellness mean to you?
True wellness means to me just like feeling good in my body and liking who I am. I think that we can get really hung up on wellness being, oh, I'm this size or I have this much energy. I think wellness also encompasses, spiritual wellness and like what are the state of your emotions. Like you can do all the blood work all day long and have the best blood work, but if you hate the skin you're in, you don't like who you are, then that's not true wellness. So I think it's just kind of that well-rounded, the idea of just being physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, kind of all in balance.
Good answer. I like that. So, my last question. When you're old and gray and you've lived a very full life, what do you want to be known for?
Helping others.
Yeah. Well, you're already doing an amazing job at that.
Thank you. I had to laugh when you said old and gray because I'm like, well, I'm 35 and
Oh.
it seems like every other day I'm getting a new gray hair, but it's not just
Oh
like
my
slightly
gosh.
gray, it's like bright silver.
Hey,
So,
that's fine. You'll rock it for sure.
right.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go here, but Candace, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
Um,
much for having me.
yes, and I will put all the links below for your website, for your podcast, for your app, all that. She has
Awesome.
so many different areas that you guys can check out. It is amazing. Some that we didn't even get to touch on. So I'll put the links. Candace, thank you so much. Any final words?
Thank you. No, I just really appreciate the fact that you are, committed to creating this really amazing environment and little community.
All right, guys, so there you have it. That is Candace, better known as Yoga by Candace. And like I said, I will put all the links down below. So to her website, to her podcast, to her YouTube channel, to her mantra box, workshops, her Instagram, etc. All that good stuff that she has to offer. I want you guys to check out because it is very valuable content, and she wouldn't put it out there if she didn't think so either. So I hope you enjoy this interview with her. And like I said before, I hope this inspires you to even do yoga for 10 minutes a day, and maybe not even for the physical aspect, but maybe for the mental aspect of just slowing down and doing something for yourself. I think we all can fit in 5 to 10 minutes a day for ourselves, and what better way to do it than trying out some new poses, maybe doing some breathing exercises, whatever that may be, okay? Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.